Welcome to science class. Today is Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. Today's assignment is 3.3, Plant Adaptations to Environmental Changes. Our review questions. Well, let me start back. Our learning objectives for today are to explain how plants respond to changes in their environment and to identify special adaptations in plants. Our lesson review questions are recall. What are two reasons a plant responds by moving or bending? How do plants respond to daily and seasonal changes? And number 3, define and give examples of xerophytes and epiphytes. So, plant responses. We learned in our last lesson that plants do respond. They may tilt towards the light. They may start growing in that direction. So we do know that plants cannot move around, but how do they respond to changes in their environments? The primary way the plants respond to change how it is growing, one way is to turn or bend a certain way. They're looking for the light. Plants do this for a couple of reasons. They turn and bend because of gravity. They also turn and bend because of lights. A plant can sense gravity. It responds to any changes it senses. Plant roots always grow downward. You can feel gravity every time you jump into the air. A plant can feel it too. A plant has special cells in the tips of its roots. These cells detect small changes in gravity. If you turn a plant on its side, what do you think will happen? The plant roots will start to grow downward. Gravity. A plant can also respond to changes in light. Plant stems and leaves grow toward the light. The house plant in our picture, you can see how it grew all to one direction, and that was because of where it was getting its light, and over time it just grew in that direction. So what about daily and seasonal responses of plants? Plants also detect light and darkness. Do you know that plants respond in these changes? Some plants open their leaves during the day. It is during these hours the plant collects sunlight. At night, the plant closes its leaves to prevent water loss. Many plants respond to the changes in the length of day. As the day grows shorter, some plants respond by going dormant. Dormant is when a plant suspends its growth. It does this in order to survive. Shorter days signal the coming of winter. As winter approaches, some plants respond by their leaves changing color. After the change in color, they fall off. This dormancy period helps trees. It allows them to survive the cold and dry winters. Plants only want to grow when conditions are right. Plants don't have an immune system. That does not mean that they do not get sick. Plants are affected by disease just like we are. Typically, their first line of defense is the death of that part of the plant that has a disease. This prevents the disease from spreading. Many plants also produce special chemicals to fight disease. For example, the willow tree produces a chemical to kill the bacteria. That same compound is used in many acne products. Plants may be smarter than we think. They can produce chemicals that warn other plants of danger. Plants with special adaptations are aquatic plants. Plants that live in water are called aquatic plants. Living in water has certain benefits. The plant does not need special traits to absorb, transport, or conserve water. They do not need a large root system. They do not need a strong stem to hold up the plant. The water uses the plant for support, or the plant uses the water for support. Some aquatic plants have floating flowers and leaves. In our picture, in our reading, they show water lilies and cattails. So, xerophytes. Some plants do not get enough water. They live in places that are very dry. How they get and keep water? Plants that are adapted to these dry places are called xerophytes. Their traits help them to survive. They need to have a large water intake. They also need to be able to conserve water. They need to be able to store water between rains. The saguaro cactus has adapted in all three ways. There's a picture of it in our reading. The cactus has a huge root system. It allows the cactus to gather a lot of water during rare rainfalls. The saguaro doesn't have any leaves. Leaves are where water can be lost. It also has a large barrel-shaped stem. It is here the plant can store a lot of water. Thorns protect the stem from thirsty animals. Some animals may try to eat parts of the plant to get at the water inside the plant. So that's what a xerophyte is. Again, a xerophyte is a plant that can live in very dry places. They do not get enough water, so they have to have a large water intake. So epiphytes are plants that grow on other plants. They obtain moisture from the air. Most epiphytes are ferns or orchids. They live in places that are very humid. Host trees provide support for the plants. They cling to trees high above the forest floor. This allows epiphytes to get air and sunlight. This lets the plant get out of the shadows of the forest floor. Like all plants need sunlight to survive, being elevated may also reduce the risk of being eaten by animals. So carnivorous plants, that's a new word for us. Carnivorous plants are plants that get some or most of their nutrients by eating other organisms. They trap and digest insects and other small animals. Carnivorous plants have adapted to grow where the soil is poor in nutrients. They can be found growing on rocky outcrops. Venus flytraps are well-known carnivorous plants. If you've ever seen one, they have their leaves, and when a fly comes or something and they sense it, they close up their leaves, keep the fly there usually till it dies. So that kind of concludes our lesson. We will talk about the crossword on the crossword and the heart and lungs on Thursday of this week. So this will be your Tuesday assignment. Wednesday we will do a section on Earth Day. I did want to share that Wednesday the 22nd is Earth Day, and I will have a video lesson for all classes together. Be sure to watch it. The first week of May we will have an Earth Day packet. They are big packets. There's a lot of fun activities to do in there. So I will kind of talk about Earth Day on Earth Day this year, which is Wednesday. And then we'll have a packet to follow up on for the first week of May. And that concludes our lesson for today. Hope you guys are getting your work done. We've only got about a week before we have to start turning it back in. Make sure your names are on your papers. If you have any questions, your teachers are here for you. We miss you. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.